bell still ringing? It stopped? No, there it goes. Okay. That has to be about 12 rings, not 6. Good evening, everyone. It is 6:00 p.m. on Tuesday, March 25th, 2025. I'd like to call the meeting of the Peoria City Council to order. I'd also like to welcome everyone here in our historic City Council chambers, as well as our listening audience at WCBU. Welcome also to our audience watching on cable channel 22. Madam Clerk, the council mics are open. Please call the roll.
Mayor Ali.
Present.
Councilmember Allen.
Present.
Councilmember Sear.
Here.
Councilmember Gordon Young.
Present.
Councilmember Graham.
Here.
Councilmember Jackson.
Here.
Councilmember Kelly.
Here.
Councilmember Euler. Councilmember Riggenbach.
Here.
Councilmember Velpula.
Present.
And Councilmember Vespa.
Here.
You have a quorum present, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Please join me, everyone, and stand for a moment of silent prayer or silent reflection, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Madam Clerk?
We are at proclamations.
Okay. We have 2 proclamations, but beforehand, I want to say, go Bradley Braves. So Bradley is playing in the NIT. The game started at 6 o'clock, right next door in the Peoria Civic Center, where they are playing against Chattanooga, and we know who we are rooting for. So go Bradley Braves. Our first proclamation recognizes Child Abuse Prevention Month, and we have Jason Killian, member of the Pediatric Resource Center Community Board, with us. And I have somewhat of a code. I'm going to ask Councilwoman Denise Jackson if she would share that proclamation, please.
Whereas every child deserves to grow up in a safe, stable, and nurturing environment free from harm and full of opportunity. And whereas child abuse and neglect continue to have devastating effects on children, families, and communities, impacting physical and emotional well-being, academic success, and long-term health outcomes. And whereas awareness, prevention, and community involvement are key to protecting children, and it is essential that we all work together to stop abuse before it starts. And whereas the Pediatric Resource Center, a nationally recognized program at the University of Illinois College of Medicine at Peoria, has been a beacon of hope for children impacted by abuse and neglect, providing expert medical evaluations, advocacy, and support to child victims and their families for over 30 years. And whereas Child Abuse Prevention Month is an opportunity for all community members to educate themselves, take action, and stand alongside organizations like the Pediatric Resource Center to build a future where all children can grow up safe and supported. Now, therefore, I, Rita Ali, Mayor of the City of Peoria, Illinois, do hereby recognize the month of April as Child Abuse Prevention Month in Peoria, Illinois, dated this 25th day of March, 2025 AD.
Killian.
Thank you very much. My name is Jason Killian. I'm a current member of the Community Board and past board president for the Pediatric Resource Center. I wanted to say thank you very much to the council, especially Councilman Allen, who was a former board member on the PRC. Great to see him here today. But thank you for this proclamation, which will help us raise awareness for the unfortunate fact that child abuse still persists today in our society. Child abuse occurs across all socioeconomic levels, ethnic and cultural lines, religions, and education levels. Some facts around child abuse continue to be staggering. 1 out of 13 boys will be victims of abuse in their lifetimes, and 1 out of 4 girls. Nearly half of all U.S. children experience at least one type of childhood trauma. 5.5 children die each day from maltreatment. For these reasons and many more, the PRC was formed in 1993 here in Peoria to help the kids here in central Illinois who are the most vulnerable. The PRC is a community service program, part of the University of Illinois College of Medicine, that provides direct services to suspected child victims of physical abuse, sexual abuse, and neglect in a child-friendly manner and setting. The PRC provides medical evaluation and social services to over 600 children each year across 50 counties here in central Illinois, from ages newborn to 18. Medical and social service staff also provide adjunct services to parents, guardians, and caretakers, and the organization works in collaboration with many local agencies and systems that are involved in these types of cases. During Child Abuse Prevention Month, the PRC and its community board will be doing 2 things to help raise awareness for the fight against child abuse. First, we'll be posting awareness messaging on social media and local media here in Peoria. Second, we'll be hosting the Pinwheel 5K on Saturday, April 19th at Donovan Park. This event is focused on raising awareness for the cause as well as funds for the PRC as they look to continue their important mission here in central Illinois. So again, on behalf of the board and the PRC, I want to thank you for recognizing this important issue. It's only through awareness and action in our communities that we can strive to eliminate child abuse once and for all. Thank you very much.
You're welcome, Mr. Killian. Thank you for your leadership and advocacy in protecting our children. Next, we have Parkinson's Disease Awareness Month, and we have Roger Helene, a member of Central Illinois Parkinson's Support Group, and Barb Helene, member of the Central Illinois Parkinson's Support Group, and Ali, Roger and Barb's service dog. Join us. Councilman Chuck Graham is going to share the proclamation.
Whereas Parkinson's disease is a chronic progressive neurological disease and is the second most common neurodegenerative disease in the United States, and there is not currently a cure. And whereas symptoms of Parkinson's disease vary from person to person and can include tremors, slowness of movement and rigidity, difficulty with balance, swallowing, chewing, and speaking, cognitive impairment issues and dementia, mood disorders, and a variety of other non-motor symptoms. And whereas Parkinson's disease is the 14th leading cause of death in the U.S., and it is estimated that the economic burden of Parkinson's disease, including direct and indirect costs of treatment, Social Security payments, and lost income to both patients and family members, is at least $52 billion annually. And whereas more than 1 million people in the United States are currently living with Parkinson's disease, with an additional 90,000 new cases diagnosed each year, the total is expected to reach 1.2 million by 2030, and whereas increased research efforts, education, and awareness are desperately needed to help develop better treatments, medications, programs, and services to help those impacted by Parkinson's disease and to help them improve their quality of life until a cure is found, and whereas the Central Illinois Parkinson's Support Group provides support, education, and events that will help everyone impacted by Parkinson's disease live life to the fullest. Now, therefore, I, Rita Ali, Mayor of the City of Peoria, Illinois, do hereby recognize the month of April as Parkinson's Disease Awareness Month.
Yes.
Thank you, Mayor Ali and council members. It's not my first rodeo down here, as most of you know. I always hope it'll be my last, but it doesn't seem to be. Parkinson's is actually on the increase. The figures now say that someone is diagnosed every 6 minutes, where we used to say someone was diagnosed every 9 minutes. Some of that is the increase in the disease. Some of it is the improvements in diagnostic techniques and that. Fortunately, there has been a few strides made through the Michael J. Fox Foundation on identifying some markers in that, that hopefully will move forward in finding some type of way to at least slow the progression of the disease. Those of you that remember years ago when we came, my wife used to come down and get the proclamation. This year, we're just lucky that she makes it to the meetings. So, and it's our support group goal that we do anything we can for the Parkinson's community as far as education and general socialization, things like that. We work with the Rocksteady Boxing Group in Peoria and a few other ones. One of our big events we hold in September at Sacre-Coeur Retreat Center up by Henry. It's what we call our PD retreat. Due to generous donations from the community and pharmaceuticals, we take about 40 people, 20 with Parkinson's and their spouse, and provide them with what I call a weekend of relaxation, fun, and a little bit of education. It's a Friday night, Saturday, Sunday morning event. Of what we figure it costs about $400 a person. For that weekend, we can cover the cost and charge $75 a person, so it helps out. But that's one of our big projects that we work on year round. And I'll just once again say thank you for your support.
Thank you for your fight, for your education, and for your advocacy. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Barbara. Ali. Yes. Thank you. Madam Clerk,
We are at the approval of the minutes.
Councilmember Riggenbach.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move to approve the minutes of the joint City Council and Town Board meeting held March 11th, 2025 as printed.
Seconded by Councilmember Graham. Any discussion, comments? Paul? Help me, let's see. Please cast your ballots. Motion passes unanimously. Madam Clerk?
We are at the consent agenda. 25-54 is a communication from the city manager and fire chief with a request to approve the donation of one City of Peoria fire engine to U.S. Ambulances for Ukraine. 25-55 is a communication with a request to approve the low bid of Illinois Civil Contractors, Inc., and award a contract for the Concrete Repairs Contract 2025 in an amount not to exceed $200,000 from the base bid of $50,753.70. 25-56 is a communication with a request to approve the low bid of Krumholtz Brothers Landscaping, Inc., and award a contract for the Golden Acres Drainage Improvement in the amount of $891,784.50, with an additional authorization of $89,178.50 for contingencies, for a total amount of $980,963. And on your desk, there is a handout in yellow. 25-57 is a communication with a request to approve the proposal from Pierce Manufacturing through McQueen Equipment for the purchase of 2 fire apparatus in 2028 in an amount not to exceed $2,400,000. 25-58 is a communication with a request to approve a professional services agreement with Kimley Horn and Associates, Inc. for the ADA Self-Evaluation and Transition Plan Update Project in an amount not to exceed $800,000. 25-50 is a communication with a request to adopt an ordinance amending the Urban Decay Abatement Ordinance. 25-59 is a communication with a request to concur with a recommendation from the Planning and Zoning Commission and staff to adopt an ordinance amending an existing special use ordinance number 14327 with waivers in a Class R3 single-family residential district for the reconstruction of a fire station for the property located at 2105 West Northmore Road. 25-60 is a communication with a request to concur with a recommendation from the Planning and Zoning Commission and staff to adopt an ordinance rezoning property from a Class CN Neighborhood Commercial District to a Class CG General Commercial District for the properties located at 2806, 2808, and 2810 Southwest Jefferson Avenue, and 309 and 313 South Warren Street. And 25-061 is an appointment by Mayor Ali to the CDBG Public Services Advisory Commission with a request to concur of Laura Kowalski. And that concludes our consent agenda.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. I'm going to ask you to pull item 25-054. Are there other items to remove? Councilmember Seer?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. 25-057.
Councilmember Kelly?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. 25-050.
Can I get a motion to approve the rest, moved by Councilmember Sears, seconded by Councilmember Allen? This is approving the rest of the items on consent. Any questions? Please cast your ballots. Motion passes unanimously. Madam Clerk?
25-54 is a communication from the city manager and fire chief with a request to approve the donation of 1 City of Peoria fire engine to U.S. Ambulances for Ukraine.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. You have the communication in your packet, but we have with us Mr. Chris Manson with OSF, and I would like for him to speak to this this opportunity is what I would call it, as well as our fire chief, Chief Sully. Do you want to start, Chief Sully, and then turn it over to Mr. Manson?
Absolutely. Thank you, Madam Mayor, Mr. Manager, and distinguished council. This was brought forward to me by City Manager Urick for consideration. We worked on this with Chris and his organization, and this is what was brought forward today. So this is a great effort from a humanitarian side for a fire engine that has no more useful life for the city of Peoria, so it's a great opportunity for us.
Great.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, members of the council. My name is Chris Manson. This is my daughter, Lily. We're the founders of U.S. Ambulances for Ukraine. And just to kind of real quick level set, actually almost 3 years ago, in February of 22, my daughter, after seeing some stuff on the news and what was going on in Ukraine, some of the suffering, just kind of leaned over and said, "Hey, Dad, is there something we can do to help the people of Ukraine?" And that got me thinking, and with a lot of help from actually the Peoria community, we ended up landing on the idea of sending 1 ambulance full of medical supplies over to Ukraine, again, just to help the people that are suffering over there. Fast forward to today, we have delivered 90 ambulances, fire engines, and SUVs to fire departments, law enforcement agencies, medics, hospitals throughout Ukraine. I've been over there 8 times, and what I'm asking for tonight, or what we're asking for tonight, is your surplus fire engine. What we do is we take these vehicles, they're end of their useful life in the United States, we ship them over to Ukraine, we ship them over to Germany, then we get them into Poland. I'll usually take a team of Americans over, and we'll drive them, and we'll put that beautiful American flag on the back of a fire engine, and we'll drive those vehicles in across the border from Poland into Ukraine, and then we go all over the place and deliver the vehicles. The fire engine that is up for consideration tonight, it would be going to Odessa. When I was there last time, or the hotel that I stayed at when I was there last time, 2 months later was hit by a couple ballistic missiles. They've received other fire engines from Illinois and the United States, and they have to deal with multiple drone and missile and ballistic missile attacks in a night. So they're desperately needed. This is a very nonpartisan effort. It's about helping people that are suffering. This engine would go to a volunteer fire department. And with that, if it's okay, I'd just like to turn it over to my co-founder here, Lily.
Absolutely.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Lily Manson, and I'm the co-founder of U.S. Ambulances for Ukraine. I just want to thank everybody for considering to donate us the fire engine. I promise you that if you do give it to us, it will go to a good cause and will save many lives. Thank you.
Thank you, Lily. And can I ask how old you are?
I am 10 years old.
10 years old. So you were 8 years old when you had this vision?
I was 7.
And 7. And how does it make you feel that you're helping so many people across the world?
It feels really, really cool.
Well, we think so too, and we're very grateful for your efforts. Thank you very so much.
Thank you.
Yes. Thank you. Can I get a motion to approve this? Moved by Councilmember Gordon Young, seconded by Councilmember Sear. Any questions or comments? Councilmember Valpula?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. While I appreciate the humanitarian cause, I had a discussion with the city manager yesterday. I also had a discussion with a few other council members. I really like the idea of giving this the fire truck to Ukraine, but we are living in a very different and difficult times. I am very worried about the second order effects, and I asked the city manager how many of them are coming from the other parts of the country, and there are 11, where 6 are coming from 4 states, 5 of them are coming from Illinois. So I'm just worried. I'm not how do I say this? I'm not worried about donating, but the timing isn't right, according to me. I feel we don't want to be, looked at in a different way while things are not working in our favor. So in that context, I will not be able to support this.
Okay.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
You're welcome. Councilmember Allen?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Chief Solberger, if you wouldn't mind coming back to the microphone. For those who are tuning in, could you provide a little bit more context? I know you said that this current engine is at the end of its life. What criteria do you utilize to determine that an engine is reached that pinnacle, and what would have been the alternative had we not considered this opportunity?
Sure, I'll provide a little bit of context. So in our industry with fire apparatus, industry standards is that you try to keep them frontline 10 years, reserve 5 years, 15 years out the door. That's just general rule of thumb. This is a 20-year-old engine. We try to get as much useful life out of our fire apparatus as possible. This particular engine was frontline for 13 years, and it was reserved for 5 up to 18, and then we still use it in a training environment up to the 20-year mark. We took it even out of the training environment because of the leaks and that it could not pass pump test. So it's still useful in that sense, but you would not have it in those type of environments due to liability reasons. So the alternative that we have is that we generally reach out to Chuck's Towing or one of the local scrap yards and then ask them, how much money can we get for this just from a scrap perspective. So generally we get anywhere from $3,500 to $5,000.
And is there any costs on behalf of the city to transport the engine to Ukraine?
No, there is no cost associated with this, so this is just working with Chris. What we have done, and we articulated this to Chris as well, is that we took anything that was of value to the city of Peoria that could be reused, so any nozzles, any hose, any ladders that could still be used, all of that's been removed.
Thank you, Chief. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
You're welcome. Councilmember Vespa?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yeah, I really feel for Ukraine. I think it's terrible what they've been going through. I think Putin is an expansionist dictator. They engaged in naked aggression against a country, sovereign country, and it's horrible what's been happening. I do get heartbroken. I think Kieran makes a valid point that right now we have an administration in Washington threatening to not renew leases, laying off people at the FDA lab or USDA lab, and people are losing their jobs because the president is vindictive, and I don't like to get into national politics when I'm sitting here, but this does kind of implicate it. I don't like possibly putting a target on our backs by helping Ukraine when I do think they are deserving of help. So I think second order effects is a legitimate concern. But I mean, it's certainly well intentioned, and if it can help people, that's great. But I do have some heartburn because I know that there's a lot at stake right now between the federal government and the local government. We know grants have been withheld and then back on, and it's just tough to predict. So given this climate, I'm a little uneasy. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
You're welcome. We have a motion on the floor to approve. Please cast your ballots. Motion passes with 2 nays, Valpula and Vespa. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Manson. And Ms. Lilly. Madam Clerk?
25-57 is a communication from the City Manager, Fire Chief, and Finance Director with a request to approve the proposal from Pierce Manufacturing through McQueen Equipment for the purchase of 2 fire apparatus in 2028 in an amount not to exceed $2,400,000.
Councilmember Seer.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Mr. Urick or Chief Solberger, either one's fine. Just want to make sure, my question is more of a cash management. I will move to approve this item, but I just want to make sure the discount is what my main question. They're providing a 7.5% discount if you've paid the full amount up front. My understanding, this purchase will be paid for, or we have the opportunity to pay, obviously, when the bill is due in 4 years from now. Is that correct, Mr. Manager or Mr. Chief?
Yeah, so anytime we go through this type of process with bidding, they give you the option to prepay. We're not considering that option in discussion with the finance director, Craddy, and the city manager. This would not be something that we would consider.
I just want to hear that because obviously Mr. Craddy is doing a good job with our cash. We're getting 4 or 5% a year on our cash. That's 20% in 4 years. So I think it's a better deal to hold on to our cash and have control of our money versus getting a 7.5% discount up front. So thank you very much. I appreciate Madam Mayor move to approve item 25-057.
Seconded by Councilmember Valpula. Any comments, questions, Councilmember Kelly?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Is this $2.8 million segregated in any way, or do we find it when the bill comes due? Do we find the money when the bill comes due?
We'll go through our normal budgetary processes. I'm sure the city manager could expand on that, but we'll go through our normal processes in the summer of 2027 in preparation for CIP 2028.
That's correct, Chief. He answered it 100%. We'll be putting that $2.4 million in the budget at that point in time so that would be paid for at that time.
Okay, so it's not being set aside currently?
No.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Welcome. Councilmember Grant?
Chief, what would be the age of the machines we're replacing these with?
So right now, we go through our fire fleet management plan, and by the time we get to 2028, we'll have 2 engine companies that are at the 20-year mark, and so they'll be rotated out at 20 years.
And we're experiencing more and more difficulty with repairs as these age and reach the 2-decade mark. And when they're out of service, what does that mean?
When they're out of service, then we have to utilize our reserve fleet. And so with the discussions with the city manager, finance director, and the city council, since 2022, we've been challenged with fire fleet purchase. We do appreciate the funds that you've given us up to this point, but really our challenge, hopefully this answers this, is that we're going through a refurb process right now with 3 of our 2017s. And so we're going to try to extend that useful life, going through that process and balancing refurbishment versus new purchase.
Are we talking 28 before they're both here?
That is correct.
Okay. You'll have to let me know when they come in.
I will. I'll send you pictures.
Thank you.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor and a second. Please cast your ballots. Councilmember Regenbach. Motion passes unanimously. Madam Clerk.
25-50 is a communication from the City Manager and Corporation Council with a request to adopt an ordinance amending the Urban Decay Abatement Ordinance.
Councilmember Kelly.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I would just once again like to thank our legislative team. This has been in process at this point, for 9 years. This started back when Chuck Weaver was a senator, and he shepherded it for a while. But most recently, Representative Spain and Gordon Booth and Travis Weaver pulled this through in the House, Senator Kaler and Senator Stoller in the Senate. They made such a good case that there was 1 negative vote on this amendment. Hopefully, this amendment to our ordinance will encourage rehabs in some of our neighborhoods where it's more difficult to do this. This would be primarily for homeowners, for owner-occupied structures. And it's something nobody else is doing except the city of Peoria, in the state of Illinois, anyway. And I'm just thrilled that it is finally here, and I appreciate everyone's votes on this. Hopefully, this will make a difference in our city. Thank you, Madam Mayor, and I will move to approve.
Is there a second? Seconded by Councilman Valpula. Any questions or comments? Please cast your ballots. Motion passes unanimously. Madam Clerk.
We're at regular business. 25-62 is a communication from the City Manager and Director of Community Development with a request to approve a grant award to Phoenix Community Development Services in an amount not to exceed $70,000.
Mr. Manager.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to turn the floor over to our Community Development Director, Joe Doolin.
Thank you, Manager. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council. So the item in front of you is a hopefully reimbursable grant to New Hope Apartments via Phoenix Community Development Services. New Hope Apartments is a joint effort of permanent supportive housing for some of our residents who often experience unsheltered homelessness. New Hope is their first step in permanent supportive housing in our community. One of the things that we are seeing due to the challenges at the federal level with kind of a slow moving of grants coming and going, is evident at New Hope Apartments. So every year, they traditionally get some rental subsidies for their residents that are based on income, which a lot of residents don't have. So they make up a percentage of their New Hope's operations. They are supposed to get the grant awards March 1st, and then another set of grant awards April 1st. While we did hear positive news from Kate Green with the Continuum of Care that they saw some movement yesterday, they still haven't received those awards. So it puts Phoenix Community Development Services and Peoria Opportunities Foundation in quite a bind, waiting for those agreements to come through. It essentially could lead to them having to issue notices to the residents there if we didn't provide this kind of stopgap measure for them. The agreement with them will have when they do receive the grants, and every indication is that they will receive the grants. It's just a matter of when we'll be reimbursed back for the $70,000. This money is coming out of the funds that we have set aside to address kind of homelessness issues in our community as part of the 2025 budget. If you ask why, a lot of these residences, unfortunately, if they're not in New Hope, would very much struggle to find permanent supportive housing anywhere else in our community. So it would just kind of make the issue much worse than we're already dealing with. Happy to answer any questions on the issue.
Are there any questions, or can I get a motion? Moved by Councilmember Allen, seconded by Councilmember Gordon Young. Questions for Director Doolin? Councilmember Regenbach?
Not a question, and unfortunately not a comment, but one of my daughters has recently been appointed the incoming executive director of Peoria Opportunities Foundation, and out of abundance of caution and conflict of interest, I'll be abstaining from this vote.
Thank you. She's doing a great job.
Thank you.
Please cast your ballots. Motion passes with one abstention. Regenbach. Thank you, Director Doolin. Madam Clerk.
25-63 is a communication from the City Manager and Director of Community Development with a request for the following. A, accept a grant award from the Heart of Illinois United Way in the amount of $204,872.50. B, approve a grant award to Lula NFP to reimburse hotel costs for unsheltered individuals in an amount not to exceed $204,872.50. And C, adopt an ordinance to amend the 2025 revised annual budget to acknowledge receipt of a grant from the Heart of Illinois United Way relating to the general fund in the amount of $204,872.50. And we'll need separate votes on each, please.
Okay, thank you. Director Doolin?
Thank you, Mayor. The item in front of you is the item we referenced 2 weeks ago. So the United Way, or Continuum of Care, which is housed at the United Way, received $1 million, a state grant last year. It's also getting an additional $1 million June 30th of this year, and $1 million the year after that. Part of that is specifically to address the homeless population in Peoria. When looking at where we're going to be at with spending those funds through when it started last year through June 30th, and if there was any additional funds that may be available to go towards the motel project, to give all of our social service agencies a little longer to work with Lula, to work with the population at the hotel, to really connect them to some long-term housing and other kind of great work they're doing there with getting them all their documentation, kind of getting them ready for that next step of housing. There's about $204,000 of that grant left that just hasn't come to a place where we're ready to spend. The original plan for some of that fund was going to fund some things out of the 100-day challenge that staff is working on with the other social service agencies about trying to encourage more landlords to be willing to rent to people who might not have the best background or might not have the best credit or might have some other issues or barriers that are preventing them. That work is continuing, but we're just not ready to launch it quite yet. We hope to be with the next $1 million that we receive. So they have $204,872 left in their grant. They are willing to pass that through to us to then pass through to Lula to continue to operate the motel project for a few more months, hopefully get to the end point of June 30th, and really just give all of our social service agencies more time to be able to provide housing to as many people that are at the motel as possible. We understand that June 30th might come around and there might still be people at the motel that they have not been able to find housing for, but we hope with some applications that they have in, some other placement, hopefully they can get 30 or 40 of those individuals into housing, and this just provides them a little more leeway to do it. As we mentioned last week, all the items that we wanted to make sure that were in both grant awards are there, so I'm happy to answer any questions you might have too.
Well, thank you. We're grateful to the United Way Continuum of Care, Christine Haley with the Governor's Office Homeless Project. Councilmember Regenbach.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Unfortunately, I can talk on this item, so I just want to thank the mayor for her leadership in reaching out to Christine Haley in the governor's office, and how her help and guidance really helped orchestrate the movement of these funds. And I see Casey Bernard in the audience with many of the other LULA workers, and we just thank you for making this project work so well for so long. And I'm happy to move for approval of item A.
Thank you. Seconded by Councilmember Graham. Did I forget to say Lula? Thank you, Lula. Thank you. Thank you, Lula. We have a motion and a second. Please cast your ballots. Motion passes unanimously. Madam Clerk?
We need a motion on item B, please.
Oh, yes. Councilmember Riggenbach? Okay. Seconded by Councilmember Graham. Please cast your ballots. Motion passes unanimously. Councilmember Riggenbach? Seconded by Councilmember Graham. Please cast your ballots. Motion passes, just waiting for Councilmember Graham, unanimously. Thank you. All right, Madam Clerk.
25-64 is a communication from the City Manager and Director of Public Works with a request for the following. A, approve the low bid of Illinois Civil Contractors, Inc. for the Combined Sewer Overflow Control Project Year 4 in the amount of $8,897,041.30, with an additional authorization of $889,703.70 for contingencies, for a total amount of $9,786,745. Item B is approve and execute the notice of intent to award to Illinois Civil Contractors, Inc. for the Combined Sewer Overflow Control Project Year 4 in the amount of $8,897,041.30, contingent upon award of the Illinois Environmental Protection Agency loan. Item C is to approve and authorize the city manager to execute a contract with Illinois Civil Contractors, Inc. for the Combined Sewer Overflow Control Project Year 4. Item D is to approve an agreement with Illinois American Water Company for reimbursement to the city of Peoria for certain water main relocation accommodation work being performed by the city's contractor, Illinois Civil Contractors, Inc., for the Combined Sewer Overflow Control Project Year 4 in an amount not to exceed $282,051. Item E is to adopt an ordinance amending the City of Peoria 2025 revised budget relating to the sewer fund budget for fiscal year 2025, for certain water main relocation accommodation relating to the Combined Sewer Overflow Control Project Year 4 in the amount of $282,051 and for the corresponding reimbursement from Illinois American Water Company. And this item requires a 2/3 vote of the council members voting no less than 6 votes. And finally, item F is to adopt an ordinance amending the City of Peoria 2025 revised budget relating to the sewer fund budget for fiscal year 2025 to increase construction costs as a result of actual bid costs exceeding the planned budget for the combined sewer overflow control project year 4 in the amount of $1,204,694. And item F requires a 2/3 vote of council members voting, no less than 6 votes. And we need separate votes on each one, please.
Thank you. Mr. Manager?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to turn it over to our Public Works Director, Rick Powers.
Mr. Manager, Madam Mayor, councilors, I'm sorry, Madam Clerk, that was a busy one for a lot of work to get to one job, but that's the way it worked out. So this is year 4. I believe everyone was on council when we entered into the consent decree in 2020, but just a quick recap. We are under a consent decree with the federal government and state IEPA to basically eliminate our combined sewer overflow and/or discharges or surcharges into the Illinois River. We are into year 4. With that process, we started in 2022, and we have 18 years to eliminate all of them, all but anomalies. Again, 500-year storms, things like that are always going to happen. Weather always wins. You hear me say that more in the winter, but it happens with these two. Rain can win if it wants to. So there are some anomalies that we get not necessarily credit, but we don't get penalized for. But we are planning for average and trying to eliminate all combined sewers and any discharge into the Illinois River as much as possible. Again, this represents year 4. I may as well go ahead and explain the $1 million bogey, I guess, as I would call it, from the engineer's estimate. It's just a time of uncertainty. I think Councilor Vespa touched on it. There's just right now in the construction industry, it's not COVID-ish, but it is uncertain-ish. And that is the only explanation we have for the bid coming in where it did, because it is in construction cost. And there is no other explanation on materials. We looked, it is the only bid, and it's just basically, we didn't call and ask, but it's just, we are all getting that feeling. So I have a feeling that now basically our engineers, like in COVID, for probably the near future anyway, are probably going to be trying to figure out on their estimate sheets where to land on doing estimates, because there really is no other explanation at this point. However, it is a reasonable bid, considering it's the only bid, and we are under a mandate to get this done. And I'll stand by for any other questions that you may have.
Questions, Councilmember Allen?
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and Director Powers. Thank you so much for the explanation. Just to, again, get some clarification on item F, when we talk about it's going to exceed the amount of the $1.2 million, can you talk about where that extra $1.2 million is coming from? Do we have that in the budget to be able to cover that?
We do. We have it in the budget, and that is what I just explained. The $1 million, that is the overage, and that is the added construction cost. Some of which was, again, there was some utility relocated in that, but we're being reimbursed for that. So, but the preponderance of the $1 million, what you see is added construction costs contained in the bid. We do have the money. You authorized us in 2020 or 21 for a 5-year plan, or excuse me, to cover the first 5 years of the consent decree with the revolving loans. So we have authorization to get this loan. So our finance manager, via the manager, obviously, will be going forward in this year's loan amount to cover this amount through the revolving loan program.
Thank you, Director
Which
Powers.
is the source of the overall program. At one point, I believe we're at 1.8%. Does that sound right, Mr. Manager? 1.87% is the interest rate we're paying. Very low, very reasonable.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
You're welcome. Councilmember Sear?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think, thank you, Director Powers. I think you answered my question already. I just wanted a clarification for our constituents that make sure they understand the difference between the money for the CSO and the money we have for storm water. But you just answered that question, so thank you very much. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
You're welcome. Thank you. Councilmember Jackson?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just one quick question. Well, Director Powers, I think this is probably the first time in the city's history we've undertaken such a massive project. Within these costs, are there considerations for inflation as they relate to purchase of materials? Was that anticipated, or is there?
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, Counselor.
How?
Was that the end of your question? I'm sorry.
Yes.
Okay.
How will?
Yes, in as much as that we would with a CPI, meaning a consumer price index, we would, and we did in our modeling, take into consideration what we thought a CPI would be. COVID happened. So that threw CPI out the window. Hence, we had this first miss this year. So we can plan to see some of these in the future. And I think the manager probably heard my desire, and especially now with the new asset management system, one of my main and primary goals as a shared goal, as a strategic plan from you, is I want our main goal to be on time, on budget. You establish that for us every year. That will be one of our goals, is to try to figure out how to execute this plan in the most reasonable and economically feasible way over the course of 18 years. Obviously, there are some things that we had in that plan over 18 years. If you looked into the future, you would say to a point of plan of practicality, meaning just from a construction staging, may have made sense 3 years ago. Financially, today, I may rethink that, because today's dollars are never going to be as cheap as today's dollars. We found that out quickly. So we may be realigning some of what we thought we had for staging in the program over a course of 18 years. In fact, there's a study out right now, you approved, I think, about a month ago, to look at storage, in-system storage, what we might do. In fact, we have some storage going into this year's project in the system, GI storage. But we need to look at some of those things, because if we're going to undertake them, we probably should do things like that which would normally cost higher dollars now rather than later. So we hope that that study will reveal some of that, and we'll share that with you in a couple of months, quite frankly. That's been our plan, so a very timely question. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Director Powers.
Do you want to initiate
Yes.
a motion?
Yes, with that, Madam Mayor, I'd like to move for approval of item A.
Seconded by Councilmember Regenbach. Councilmember Kelly?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The horse is pretty dead, but if I'm not mistaken, we're looking at like a 13-14% bump from anticipated expenditures with this particular item, which I suspect is more than our estimate of inflation, although it looks like inflation is slowing down. So, but things at the beginning, if inflation goes to zero, we're still going to be, 12, 13% more all the way through, and inflation won't go to zero. Well, I don't know if it will or not, but I doubt it. So I think you're implying that this is kind of throwing off our future anticipated expenditures. Am I right?
You are correct, Counselor.
Okay.
We're doing due diligence in that regard on what we believe our spending would be and being prudent.
Okay. I just wanted to be sure of that. I don't want to be redundant, because the other questions that were asked, I think, were.
And again, I think this is probably a good time to interject this point. When I came here in 2019, you were in the midst of negotiating this consent decree. And using the formula from US EPA, which is population-based, we came in and renegotiated, because it's the year I got here, actually, I think that we entered 2020, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, it was. I got here in 19. That we reduced, we got the EPA to reduce our required investment to the spend level we are now significantly. And I forget, Mr. Manager, what that original amount was?
It was somewhere in the area of about $550 million is what they wanted us to spend.
And we are like
Yeah.
30?
150, as costs are
Yeah,
going up.
so,
It'll
again-
probably end up being around 200 million.
I don't want to say that that's good news if we have to go over what we did, but that's still better than 500 million that they would have thrown at us using a formulaic.
Well, no, yeah, I'm not really referring to that. I can't help but agree, of course.
I understand,
But,
sir.
I don't know that, I'll take up my further concerns with you later on.
Sure.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
You're welcome. We have a motion to approve item A. Please cast your ballots. Councilman Valpula. Can you say your vote out loud? Aye. Aye. Motion passes unanimously. Can you clear it? Okay. Councilmember Jackson,
I'd like to move to approve item number B.
seconded by Councilmember Regenbach. Please cast your ballots. Motion passes unanimously. Councilmember Jackson,
Move to approve item C.
seconded by Councilmember Regenbach. Please cast your ballots. Motion passes unanimously. Councilmember Jackson,
I move to approve item number D.
seconded by Councilmember Regenbach. Please cast your ballots. Motion passes unanimously. Councilmember Jackson,
Move to approve item E.
seconded by Councilmember Regenbach. Oh, okay. Councilmember Seer.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just want to revisit these numbers one more time before we vote on item
Okay.
E.
Okay.
With Mr. Manager, nobody knows the numbers better than Mr. Manager. But I just want, I go from recollection. Again, this is an 18-year deal that we made with the EPA, correct?
That is correct.
So every tranches of this deal, if I remember correctly from the funding, I think we have different tranche every 3 years. We get money from the state, correct?
That's correct, and that's where this is coming from.
And every tranche is about 20 years, though, is that correct?
Roughly. The term of the loan that
Yeah.
we get from the EPA is 20 years.
So I just want to make sure people understand. So year 18 of this deal, it'll take 20 years to pay the tranches, the 18 tranches, correct?
It's a 38-year.
I just want to make sure people understand. So, but the number, my recollection, the numbers you said 200, it's more like $180 million carry over 20 years or 38 years. Last number we talked about, I thought it was around $325 to $350 million.
When you add in, just in terms of the upfront, it's, just like when you buy a house and then you're paying your mortgage payment over time, you're paying a lot more in interest for that mortgage than you are for just buying the house.
Yeah. Thank you very much. I just want to make sure people understand it's really 18 years, but it will be paid for 38 years. So
Correct.
thank you. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Good point. And we have a motion and a second for item E. Please cast your ballots. Motion passes unanimously. Councilmember Jackson,
Move to approve item F.
seconded by Councilmember Regenbach. Please cast your ballots. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council.
Madam Clerk.
25-65 is a communication from the City Manager and Director of Community Development with a request to concur with a recommendation from the Planning and Zoning Commission and staff to adopt an ordinance approving a special use in a Class R1 single-family residential district for a short-term rental for the property located at 223 West Detweiler Drive.
Councilmember Seer. You're on, I think. Yes.
Thank you. Here we go. Move to defer agenda item 25-065, 30 days to the April 22nd, 2025 meeting. Thank you.
Seconded by Councilmember Allen. Any questions? Please cast your ballots.
Thank you.
Motion passes unanimously. Madam Clerk.
If we are at unfinished business, and if we do not have any, then we'll be at new business.
Is there any new business? Councilmember Graham.
One of our major employers, Bradley University, has a new president, 13th president in Bradley's history. This is an important institution, not only for the 2nd District, but for our entire city and region and country. Great School of Engineering and Business. James E. Shadid Jr., the former federal judge, is the 13th president. So I think we're all happy to see that change. He's someone who's familiar with our community, familiar with the West Bluff area where Bradley finds itself, and I look forward to our future years working with him, and I hope our new 2nd District council person will also look forward to working with Judge Shadid.
Yes, great. And he is inviting the council to his opening event. I think it's April the 8th, but we'll get information out to everybody. I'm very excited about this as well. Councilmember Jackson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I would just like to know if I could get a report back, Mr. Manager, on the number of road reconstruction projects we've done with projects like Western Avenue, Sheridan. It has come to my attention by some of the constituents along the Sterling area about the deteriorating conditions of the roadway from probably Gale on down, and I've been driving it quite a bit lately, and it is in need of some attention. But I was interested in how many projects we've done and where we currently stand, and if there's any way, shape, or form we can look at that one as a possible one for consideration. I don't recall them having any enhancements. Okay.
And prepare that for council's review and examination.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
You're welcome. Councilmember Regenbach.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Speaking of Bradley University, they're up by 13 at halftime.
Oh, yes. That's great news. That is great news. Councilmember Sear.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Mr. Manager, I'm not sure. I'd like to control the conversation a little bit here. And I don't know how to go about this. I don't know if we need a report back. There's a great need out there, obviously, and we're investing a lot of money on different organizations that have great needs. And people experiencing homelessness is one of them, example. But people are asking me, we're on the trailer right now, and we're all asking for transparency and accountability. Example, we're paying hotels bill, we're paying for food, we're paying medicine, different things. How do we can communicate with, and some people think sometimes we're unfair because the way to get the money is different for different people. So is there a way we can communicate with people that have needs out there, which program we have and why we're doing this way with homelessness, why we're not doing it with other people that have great needs? Where's the money come from? This time it's a grant money from the state, right? How do we control the communication a little better, or we communicate better with our constituent? Where's the money come from? What program we have? I'd like, because sometimes I just can't answer those questions. So do you have any ways to communicate better?
We'll be happy to put some stuff together. We did that during the budget process. We kind of outlined exhaustively what we've been doing in terms of housing. Director Doolin at the last council meeting stood up and talked for about 10 minutes talking about what we've been doing in the homelessness space. And I think that we'll be happy to put something together for you that just kind of outlines it. We'll probably take the information we gave you back in the fall and as well as add to that. It's hard to identify. We are working within certain pots of funding that we get. You know, the home funds are for housing. Community development block grant funds, we take 15% of that goes to public service agencies, social service agencies through our commission. And then the rest is used for, it could be for public infrastructure, or it could be used for other community development services, such as we use it for some of our community development staff. There's other specific grant funds that we get, as you just referenced, the homeless funding that comes in directly for those specific services. So we'll put something together that kind of outlines that in general so that you can have some more talking points on that point.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
You're welcome. And maybe, Mr. Manager, you know, I know Director Doolin can write a whole manuscript on this and talk about it in depth, but maybe some just bullet points, you know, 1 or 2-sided page of bullet points that could be useful to council and kind of communicating it in a succinct way.
Happy to.
Thank you. Stacy's gone, but I do want to announce that this week will be the Equity and Procurement Expo held at the Civic Center. It's the City of Peoria in conjunction with other key stakeholders, supporting minority businesses, women businesses, veterans businesses. It starts at, it's either 5 o'clock or 5:30. I don't have my little card with me. Do you remember the time, Mr. Manager?
I don't.
Okay, 5 or 5:30. 5 o'clock. 5 o'clock on the 27th, which is Thursday of this week at the Peoria Civic Center. We're expecting a large crowd. I hope that everybody can come out and check it out. Thank you. Councilmember Allen.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. A friendly reminder that the Neighborhood Mini Grant is opening right now, and the application closes April 4th. That's a great opportunity for registered homeowner associations and neighborhood associations to apply for funding. If you are a first-time awardee, you are eligible up to $5,000, and those who are returning awardees are eligible for $2,500. So great opportunity to do beautification efforts for your neighborhood, address signage, or other things to enhance your neighborhood. So please apply. For any questions, please reach out to our Community Development Department. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Good. Thank you. Madam Clerk.
We are at citizens' opportunity to address the City Council.
Okay, we just have one card, Ms. Casey Bernard.
Hi guys, I just always feel like I should stay and say thank you on behalf of Lula and all the people that you've given the opportunity to seek permanent housing. I can't tell you, they know when this vote's happening, and it's a big energy day on Tuesdays when this vote is up. People are apprehensive and scared. Heather already left to go do dinner with good news, so I'll be excited to walk in there and celebrate with everyone. And Mr. Sear, I want to personally invite you and everybody else that sits at the Horseshoe who hasn't already came to come see what we're doing. And there's nothing like firsthand experience to be able to report that back to your voters and constituents. So once again, an open invitation. People have my phone number, they have my email, and come out and see what we're doing, see what you're supporting. It's real and measurable change. Thank you, everyone. Good night.
Welcome. Thank you. Okay, Madam Clerk.
We do not have an executive session, so we are at adjournment.
Can I get a motion to adjourn, please? Moved by Councilmember Gordon Young, seconded by Councilmember Allen. Please cast your ballots. Thank you for your service.